Greetings from North High School. My name is Andy Dallin. I'm principal here at North High School, and it's my pleasure to be creating this podcast for our staff. This is one of our plans, is to do a podcast of items that are traditionally covered during the back-to-school faculty meeting, with the idea that we can free up some of your time. So our plans are is that we're going to do this podcast, and you'll see 4 or 5 of them maybe during the course of the time before school. So here we go. I have an objective for today. I want to review the observational emphasis for our administrative team. Our administrators come in and observe and try to give teachers feedback. I also want to talk a little bit about our RMS score, and we'll talk about that acronym. And then I have some reminders of odds and ends. So let's get started. First thing that I wanted to do here is just to talk a little bit about the FNH teacher observations. One, that we have an expectation that all teachers will state the learning objective at the beginning of a class period. We reference that as a SWABAT. SWABAT is an acronym that talks about students will be able to, and then whatever it might be. And that needs to be posted and referenced during the first few minutes of class. We think that's a beneficial time. We believe that that is something that students are accustomed to seeing, and it helps them focus in on what's important for that lesson. The second part of it that we talk about is being referenced also at the end of the period. That's probably one area of growth that we can accomplish during the course of this year, and referencing what we wanted students to learn at the end of the class period and kind of in a wrap-up session. Another focus for feedback is with regards to prime time 1. Does the class start on time? Are there meaningful activities at the beginning of a class period? Are you also standing outside your classroom greeting students? All a part of prime time 1. And so that is one of our emphasis, and we try to provide feedback to teachers. We also talk about the end of the class period. Again, it's also a real beneficial time. The first 10 minutes and the last 10 minutes of class are shown to be beneficial in terms of time and also attentiveness of students, and so we expect it to be run efficiently and effectively. Also, we want to see an increased use of formative assessments. Made big strides with regards to that over the last couple of years. Again, we want to even get better at that. We think that in some of our classes, such as performing arts, music, fine arts, FIED, it's probably easier to do those things in those types of classes, which are more project-based classes, because you're always constantly giving feedback. But also in our core areas, we've used exit slips, we've used different things to do those types of things that give us feedback about how we can modify instruction. And that's the real key with regards to the increased use of formative assessments. It's just not getting that feedback, but it's also what are you going to do with the feedback, and how are you going to approach the learner differently. Another point of emphasis is the hallway rapport. Last year that was called hallway presence. Rapport is the idea that we want you to be interacting with students as they're in the hallway. In one of our recent survey results, in terms of the bullying that goes on in schools, one report shows that the hallways are the most prevalent places for bullying type activities and so forth. So if we're out there and observing and responding to those types of inappropriate behavior, it can go a long way to creating a great school culture. And then finally, one of the things that we'd like to see is the evidence of increased reading and writing within your period. Maybe difficult in some curricular areas, but again, something that can be emphasized, and we think that's going to have an impact on student achievement. So those are the 6 different categories of our observations for 2013-14, and we hope that this graphic will help you remember those things. The next screen is talking about is the RMS score, and RMS, R stands for reading, M stands for math, and S stands for science. And last year, if you combine our scores and compare it to other Class A public schools in North Dakota, we were number 1, so we can feel really good about that. In reading, we were 2nd overall. In math, we were 2nd overall. And in science, we took 1st overall. So our RMS score would actually be a 221. 2nd in reading, 2nd in math, and 1st in science. And our overall score, though, was 1st. We outdistanced our other colleagues and so forth. So it's a nice job by our staff, and again, to stay on top will require us to emphasize those things that give us those good scores. But again, congratulations on that. And then some different odds and ends and so forth. One of the things that we have emphasized is also a real productive first day. We know that we are going to be deploying the personal learning devices to students, and that's going to be held on the first day in our language arts classes. And so other teachers should be aware that those students are going to have those devices with them. The second part of it is that we'd like you to over-teach that first assessment. We think that, like any type of relationship in marriage, that the first year or so is kind of a honeymoon period, and so we also want you to over-teach, and so the kids get off to a great start. This year also, as in past years, we're going to provide you a complimentary membership. There will be a membership form in your mailbox. We'd expect you to fill that out if you're interested. We will then pick up the tab for that. Social fund is also an expectation here at North High School, and as in past years, there's a fee associated with that that goes to different activities during the course of the year, including the end of the year activity, but also when people have other family issues or experiencing deaths and those types of things, we do provide some support there. And then we've always had a tradition here at North High School in the last 7 or 8 years at least to lead the district in terms of United Way contributions, and so that will be coming forth in October, but just want to put a little bit of a plug in for United Way. Last year I believe that we raised over $17,000 for United Way, and there's lots of different programs that are supported through the efforts of members like you. And then also, if you haven't found your staff ID, make sure that you find that, because that is an expectation that all teachers will be wearing their staff ID during the course of this year. Finally, just some policy reviews. Profanity, of course, is an emphasis that we want students to use good language here at North High School. We have a profanity policy that if it's directed at a staff member, you would refer them to the office. If it's some casual things between students, dropping the F-bombs and so forth, or even in directing it in anger at somebody, of course, gets a consequence and so forth. And so we ask for your cooperation in following the profanity policy. Cell phones, again, we expect students to only be using cell phones in the classroom if there's an educational purpose. If there's no educational purpose, cell phones should be put away. And because we opened up the window for cell phones last year and allowed kids to use it in the commons during their lunch periods, that seemed to help a little bit. But again, we could use your support and help with regards to that. Again, we have no hats and no pop in classrooms, and so we'd expect you to follow that as well. And then finally, the alcohol drug referral. That's just a good time to emphasize that if you suspect somebody to be under the influence of alcohol or drugs during your class period, you need to immediately call the office, and that an administrator at that time would come down to your classroom, pick up the student, and bring them back for an inquiry and investigation. It never does us very much good if you wait till the end of the day or wait even till the next day or two and say, you know what, I was wondering if the student was under the influence, and there's no way for us to intervene at that time. So again, let's try to support that by getting a hold of the office if there is a suspect in your classroom. That completes my podcast for today. It's my first attempt. We'll see how this goes. Thank you very much. Have a great day.